You let someone disrespect you last week, and you didn't stop them because you gave them permission. Now they speak over you, ignore your boundaries, and test just how far they can go before you fight back. You tell yourself you're choosing your battles. You assume decency will eventually win without you having to enforce anything. Weakness doesn't inspire mercy. It creates opportunity. The moment someone senses you won't defend yourself, the rules change. Decisions that affect your life get made without your approval, not because people hate you, because you're safe to ignore. Your compliance has been tested, and you showed you won't fight back. They learned you'll accept disrespect as long as it's delivered politely. You think you're being patient. They see a target that doesn't move. Machiavelli observed that men are quick to change allegiance when they see no risk in doing so. People don't abandon the powerful when they stumble. They abandon those who stumble and stay down. Your vulnerability is not a signal for sympathy. It's an audition for how much disrespect you'll accept before you become uneasy. Every person watching you struggle is calculating whether helping you costs more than discarding you. And if you make yourself easy to discard, they won't think twice before discarding you. You have been told that showing weakness builds trust, that admitting limits makes you human, that asking for help creates connection. But watch what actually happens when you're the one who needs something. The people who promised loyalty suddenly have conflicting schedules. The ones who said they valued honesty now find your transparency uncomfortable. You're not bonding through vulnerability. You're handing them a map of where you can't defend yourself. Machiavelli understood that fear and love are not opposites in power. They're currencies. And when people don't fear losing you, love becomes optional. You think you're being authentic when you expose your limits. What you're actually doing is removing the cost of betraying you. There's no penalty for dismissing someone who's already dismissed themselves. You're not building intimacy. You're lowering the price of your absence. There's a reason predators circle the wounded animal instead of the healthy one. Not because the wounded one deserves what happens. Because it's easier. Human beings are not more evolved than this. They're just better at disguising the same calculation. When you broadcast that you're struggling or unsure, you're not inviting compassion. You're announcing that taking from you requires less effort than usual. People who wouldn't dare cross you at full strength suddenly find small ways to test your boundaries. A dismissive comment here, an ignored message there. Nothing you can call out without seeming paranoid. But you feel the shift in how they look at you. The subtle impatience when you speak. The way they no longer ask your opinion before moving forward. They're not being cruel. They're being efficient. You've shown them that confrontation isn't necessary, that you'll absorb the disrespect and call it understanding. Machiavelli said it's better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. But you've chosen a third option. You've made yourself harmless, and harmless things get used. Watch how people respond to the person who never complains gets their problems ignored because no one knows they exist, and the person who speaks up is immediately labeled difficult, negative, and too much. The message is clear. You must suffer quietly because the second you need something, you become a burden, and burdens get abandoned. You've been in rooms where someone's name gets torn apart the second they leave. People who smiled at them an hour ago now speculate about their failures, their weaknesses, their inevitable collapse. And you say nothing because you don't want to become the next name they dissect. So you concede. You participate in the same dismantling you fear. People bond over shared cruelty more than shared kindness. Tearing someone down creates an alliance. Defending them isolates you. So you choose the pack over the person who isn't there to defend themselves. And you hope when it's your turn, someone will be braver than you are. But they won't be because the pattern is already in place. You've shown everyone exactly how much loyalty costs. And the price is zero. You've been in situations where support evaporated the moment you actually needed someone. And instead of leaving, you made excuses for them. You convinced yourself they were busy, stressed, and going through something. You absorbed their absence like it was your job to understand. Every time you stayed after being abandoned, you sent a message. Abandoning you is free. There's no loss, no price, no risk. So why wouldn't they do it again? Machiavelli wrote that the main foundations of all states are good laws and good arms. Replace state with self. Your laws are your boundaries. Your arms are your willingness to enforce them. If you have boundaries but no enforcement, you don't have protection. You have suggestions, and people ignore suggestions the moment they become inconvenient. You think stating your limits is enough. Limits without consequences are just complaints, and complaints are noise people learn to tune out. There's a reason you've never seen someone gain respect by begging for it. Respect is not given to those who ask. It's withheld from those who tolerate its absence. Every time you let someone cross a line without consequence, you move the line. They didn't violate your boundary. You relocated the boundary for them. And now the new boundary is wherever they decide to stop. You're not being flexible. You're being erased. You've watched people get away with things you would never attempt. They speak with certainty you don't feel. They demand things you would never ask for. They take up space you've been trained to apologize for occupying. And it works. Not because they're smarter or more deserving. Because they don't signal that disrespecting them is safe. Machiavelli observed that people judge more by their eyes than their hands. They see how you carry yourself before you ever open your mouth. If you move through the world like you expect to be dismissed, you will be. Not because you deserve such treatment, because you've already given permission. You know this because you've done it to others. You've met someone who apologized for existing and immediately downgraded how seriously you took them. You've watched someone fail to defend themselves and lost respect you didn't know you were measuring. You didn't plan it. It happened automatically, because weakness is contagious in reverse. It doesn't spread sympathy. It spreads contempt. When you see someone let themselves be diminished, you start to doubt whether resisting would even matter. Maybe they know something you don't. If their surrender is proof they weren't worth defending. That's the trap. You think people will see your struggles and help. But most people see struggle and distance themselves. Not because they're heartless. Because association with failure feels like risk. If you're sinking, staying close to you might pull them under. So they step back. They stop returning calls. They agree with you less in meetings. They quietly remove themselves from your circle. And you don't blame them because you'd probably do the same. Machiavelli said it plainly. People will more easily forget the death of their father than the loss of their inheritance. Sentiment dissolves when survival is on the line, and everyone is protecting their inheritance. You felt the cold calculation behind warm words. Someone tells you they are always there for you, and you test their promise. You actually ask for help, and suddenly their availability vanishes. They're busy. They'll get back to you. They never do. You learn the performance of support is not the same as support. People will offer help they never intend to give because the offer makes them feel generous. Following through requires effort, and effort is reserved for people whose gratitude or retaliation matters. This is why Machiavelli insisted that a prince must learn to be not good, not evil for its own sake, but willing to act against virtue when virtue becomes a liability. You've been virtuous. You've been patient, forgiving, and understanding. And it has cost you every time. The people you forgave didn't appreciate your mercy. They noticed your tolerance for disrespect and adjusted their behavior accordingly. You gave them a second chance, and they took it as permission for a third and fourth chance. Your goodness is not inspiring better behavior. It's lowering the standard for what they can get away with. You see it in how people talk about boundaries now. Everyone claims to have them. But most people's boundaries are just wishes they hope others will respect without enforcement. A boundary without a consequence is a request. And requests get denied most often. You tell someone what you won't tolerate, and they do it anyway. Then they wait and watch to see if you meant what you said. And when you do nothing, they learn the truth. Your boundary was a bluff, and now it's clear to them. Machiavelli warned that the one who has relied least on fortune has maintained his position best. You've been relying on other people's decency, on the hope that if you're reasonable and patient, you'll be treated well. But decency is a luxury people afford when it costs them nothing. The second your needs conflict with their convenience, decency evaporates. You're not dealing with good or bad people. You're dealing with people who prioritize themselves. and they've learned that prioritizing themselves at your expense is safe. There's a version of you that doesn't get treated this way. That version doesn't ask for respect, doesn't explain boundaries, doesn't wait for fairness to arrive. That version makes the cost of disrespect clear before it happens. People sense the cost and adjust without being told. Not because that version is cruel, because that version doesn't signal that exploitation is risk-free. Machiavelli knew the appearance of strength often matters more than strength itself. You don't need to be dangerous. You need to stop advertising that you're weak. Every second you spend hoping people will recognize your value without you enforcing it yourself, someone else is taking what you refuse to protect. Your time, your energy, your position. They're not waiting for permission. They're just taking. And you're letting them because confrontation feels worse than loss. But loss is already happening. You're just calling it something else. Patience, maturity, picking your battles. These are the words you use to describe surrender. You already know what happens next. You'll keep tolerating small violations until they're not small anymore. You'll wake up one day and realize the life you're living isn't the one you agreed to. And the people around you won't be confused, because you taught them exactly how much of you they could take. Machiavelli's world was brutal because it was honest. Yours is brutal because it pretends not to be. The predation is the same. It's just dressed in politeness.